Ryan, would you like me to wait a few minutes or you let me know when?
Yeah, I think we're good. Yeah, I think I'll just jump in really quick. So thank you everybody for coming. I'm glad my link worked. I was really scared about my calendar invite that it wasn't going to work. That's the first time I've done that, so I'm glad everybody's here. Just a heads up that this meeting is being recorded and it will be uploaded. I don't know where yet, but I will be pushing that out. So I understand some people had a meeting with Dr. Rodriguez and couldn't make it, but I'll be pushing that out later and let you know. First of all, I just wanted to thank our technology department, Brandy and ST Math, for helping us set this up so quickly. And the reason we wanted to do so is just to give you an option because we have so many different programs being pushed out right now, and it's really hard to kind of filter through and decide what to use with your students. So we wanted to offer you what we know is a really good, high quality, vetted, research-based math program that you can use with your students, something that would be fluid to do in a digital environment. And so today we have actually ST Math trainers today. Karen's going to be doing the training, and then we have some support in that on the chat side. So if you have any questions as we go ahead and put them in the chat, and we'll be able to address them there. One thing that did come up, just a heads up, is that in the K2 session, a lot of people were asking about Clever, and what if I haven't used Clever before, because that's how most of you will log in. And Brandy and I are working on setting up a training for that to give you some support in that environment. If your students already use Clever, you're gonna love it because it's already, class is already built, it's already in, and it's ready to go. So without further ado, let me hand off to Karen.
Thank you, Ryan, and thank you for setting this up. My name is Karen Panko, and I am an Education Success Manager at Mind Research Institute. That is our company name. Our brand is ST Math, and we're really excited that you're going to be using our program for the next couple weeks. I also have my colleague on the chat. Her name is Shakitha Green. So if you do have any questions that arise, go ahead and type them in the chat, and she'll do her best to respond. I will be using the chat for some responses, so make sure that is open. Our content today is only going to be about 30 minutes, so there will be plenty of time afterward to ask questions at that time as well. So here we go. Let's get started. Welcome to ST Math. We are going to talk about what ST Math is. We're going to have a quick review of some puzzles that your students will encounter, as well as review some teacher navigation that you will be using when monitoring students. So before we even get into this, I'd love to know what your prior knowledge is of ST Math. So go ahead and type in the chat anything that you know. And if the answer is nothing, that is fine too. I just would like to get a sense of everyone's understanding. So far, no one's used it. A few tutorials. Some have used ST Math before. It's been a while. There's some visual puzzles, concept building. Some lab techs have used it and seen it used. Gigi has come up. Nada, I love that. I will actually mention real quick, if you are from Rorimer, Hurley, and Blandford, some of your teachers are using ST Math as a trial as opposed to using the Clever login. So if you do have any specific questions about the trial, I can certainly set up time to chat with you about that after. There's also a webinar tomorrow that is not hosted by Roland. It's from ST Math, but a lot of your questions could be answered that way. So just keep that in mind. So before I even get into what ST Math is, I'd like to start with this problem because this will explain a lot about how ST Math approaches problem solving. This is an actual question from a standardized test. Estimate the sum 7/8 plus 12/13. And if you could type in the chat what you think most students answer, go ahead and do that. 19 or 21. Another 19, possibly B. Lots of C's and D's, it looks like. Another B. So most of you selected 19 or 21, and you are absolutely right. We found that the majority of students chose C or D on a standardized test. And the reason is most likely due to the fact that students don't have a really strong conceptual knowledge about fractions. So they see a question pop up like this. Maybe they don't even realize it says to estimate, and so they want to solve it exactly, but they don't have a visual of what this actually means. So ST Math approaches this kind of problem in a visual way first, as opposed to students trying to think of something that they've learned about fractions like, I know I need to add something, maybe I'll just add across the top or add across the bottom. What if they were presented this problem in a visual way like this? We're trying to have students understand in this question that they're adding two things that are very similar. 7/8 is very close to 1, and 12/13 is very close to 1. So by modeling this in a visual way, students should be able to make some sort of picture or movie in their mind that these fractions look like these orange fractions that you see, and be able to estimate that the number is 2. So ST Math does this and provides a visual way of learning for our students. And I'm going to show you a couple examples of how this works. This is an example of a Gigi Cycle Basket. It's one of my favorite games. It's a 4th grade puzzle. And I'm going to go into this game live here. And this is an example of what your students are going to see right away. You'll notice that there are no words. So even though language is important in learning, it can sometimes be a barrier to learning math. And you'll notice that there's very limited language in all of our ST Math puzzles. But we still want to see, we still want students to problem solve this even without the words. So we want them to notice what's on the screen. So if you were a student, type in the chat, what are some things that you notice? And it could be anything at all. Looks like a number line on the bottom. A lot of you noticed that first. There's some shapes. So if I were in a classroom, I'd actually ask that student, what shapes do you see? There's some shapes on the left that kind of look like a fraction. Love that someone said tires. And when I move my mouse around the screen, the only thing that is moving is this balloon basket. So now that I've noticed everything on the screen, I kind of just need to take a guess as to what I might select on where this balloon basket should go. So I see someone said tires. These do look like fractions. It looks like 1/4 and 3/4. So take a guess. Where do you think I should put this balloon basket on my number line? I've got a lot of ones. Yeah, that's what I thought too. So I'm going to place my balloon basket on the number 1. And I want you to really closely watch the animation, because the students notice what's on the screen. They're predicting what might happen. So I'm predicting that Gigi is going to move to the number 1 on the screen, and something might happen. I really don't know what. But the animation is really important for students to watch. Gigi is their teacher as they're playing ST Math. So let's see. I'm going to click on 1 and let's watch what Gigi does. Oh man. Okay, well, it looks like my prediction was inaccurate. So I'm going to try again though, because Gigi gave me not just immediate feedback, but informative feedback. So I noticed that Gigi went forward on the number line and also back on the number line. So it looks like I need to change my thinking here. So I'm going to move to where Gigi moved. He went around 3/4 on the number line, but then he went back 1/4. So let me try that and see what works. Okay, so now I'm kind of understanding how this puzzle is working. We are actually adding and subtracting fractions on this number line. And you're right, the red must be negative. It looks like the red fractions are subtracting on the number line and the blue fractions are adding. And it might take your students a couple tries to figure this out. They might not understand it right away. But ST Math provides this visual way of learning and multiple chances for students to finally get the answer correct. It is a game-based approach to learning, and we all know that students love video games. So now that I know how this works, I'm going to try what I think was working before. So I'm going to add 1 3/4, and then I'll subtract 1/2. Let's see if this works here. Oh, there we go. So as this level progresses, you'll notice that the fractions change too. So I'm not just dealing with fourths anymore, but I have a 1/3 here. So that might be around here. There's now a 1/6 that shows up. And eventually, I'm going to click over to another level in this game. Symbols are going to be introduced. ST Math provides visual approaches to learning first, but then we do realize that students do need to understand the symbols. So as this particular puzzle progresses, you'll notice that instead of the fraction wheels, the students are now seeing unit fractions. Here's another example of how that visual to symbolic works. So this is an actual puzzle in ST Math, and just take a guess, type in the chat, what do you think you're trying to solve in this puzzle? So don't give me an answer with a number. Don't solve it yet, but what are you trying to do? How many legs? You're right, just by looking visually at this puzzle, you're noticing some creatures. There happens to be some ostriches and some dogs, but the dotted line shows you that there's something missing. So you need to count that up. Even if you were a kindergarten or first grade student that is still counting 1 to 1, you could simply count one at a time and solve for how many legs. And there's a question, is this multiplication? I do have a group of upper grade teachers here, so you are exactly right. As this game progresses, we are introducing groups of creatures. And it's not until the middle of the game that that symbol is introduced. We want to make sure that students have a strong conceptual knowledge of the grouping and adding before we throw in those symbols. So you're right, Maria, as the game continues, multiplication is introduced, and it's not until the very end that the equation is going to be shown. This is where a lot of textbooks start. And then you have to backpedal and teach your kids visually what is being asked of them and what the order of operations is in this particular puzzle. So going back to the beginning, throughout this entire game and puzzles, students have been able to solve in a variety of ways so that by the time they get to the end here, they see this as 3 groups of 2 plus 2 groups of 4. Too far here. So that is a very brief overview of ST Math. The ST stands for spatial temporal. We are learning in space and time, and through a visual and game-based approach to learning, we find that students are very engaged and intrinsically motivated to move forward. Here on this slide, you'll notice you are in really good company. We are happy to have Roland on for the next few weeks, as I mentioned at the beginning. Prior to mid-March, when the coronavirus made us all new kinds of teachers, we had 1.2 million students on ST Math across 5,000 schools and in 2,400 homes. And in just the last month, we've added 1 million students, 4,000 schools, and 24,000 homes are now using ST Math. So we are very excited, and we're here to support you across the next few weeks. ST Math has been proven to work. So you'll notice this graph here is based on a nationwide study that showed schools that consistently used ST Math outgrew similar schools in their state by about 14 percentile points. And you'll notice I said consistent, and we'll talk about the recommended usage in a little bit on how often your kids should be using ST Math. I'd like to quickly talk about our mission statement here at Mind Research. It's to ensure that all students are mathematically equipped to solve the world's most challenging problems. And when I first read this, I had to read it again and again and again, probably a dozen times, because there's a lot of information here. But when I kept reading it over and over, there was one word that kept popping in my mind. And I'd like to hear from you what word pops out. So please type in the chat what word kind of struck you the first time you heard it. Clicked. Absolutely. The world's mathematically, The word challenging comes up. There you go, Myrna. The word that actually popped out at me was all. So we want to make sure that we help all students. It doesn't matter if they've never gone to preschool or kindergarten. It doesn't matter what language they speak. It doesn't matter if they have a disability. We want to make sure they are problem solvers and equipped to solve these problems. You'll also notice that it does not say solve the world's most challenging math problems. By playing ST math games and puzzles, we are creating problem solvers and flexible thinkers. So who is this Gigi? Some of you know, when I asked what you know about ST Math, you answered Gigi. Gigi is our penguin, our ST Math ambassador, and Gigi is going to be your student's teacher when you're not available as they play ST Math. During every single puzzle, the goal of the student is to help Gigi across the screen. It could be left to right, it could be from the top or bottom to the top, as we saw in Gigi's cycle basket, but there's always going to be an obstacle in Gigi's path that students need to figure out how to remove in order to help Gigi cross. So let's play a little bit more. Before I show you the next puzzle, we kind of went through this learning cycle a little bit in Gigi's cycle. This is the learning cycle that students naturally go through, and for that matter, everyone, when they're problem solving. You want to notice what's on the screen. You want to predict what might happen if you click where you want to click. You want to analyze what Gigi is doing and showing on the screen to help you connect with what to do next. We also want to have students connect with what they're learning in math during that time. So this is the learning cycle that all of us are going through as we're solving problems. So let's show this in a game called Pie Monster. And I'm going to go live into this game. Oops. Sorry, I thought I had it open. Let me open it again. So this happens to be a second grade game, but this game comes up again in fourth grade. So this is an example of a student screen when they log in and start playing. They're going to click on the gray cone. Gigi's going to enter into the game once I click on my cylinder. And I'm in a teacher view, so you'll notice there's 4 levels available for me to click on here. If a student was viewing this screen, they would only be seeing level 1 because they need to pass each level with 100% accuracy before they move on to the next. But what I wanted to demonstrate here was how the levels build upon each other. So when I click on level 1, here is my screen. So remember, the first step is to notice. So I know that I need to get Gigi across the screen, and there seems to be some boxes in front of Gigi. So that must be the obstacle that I need to move out of the way. But I want to hear from you. What do you notice on the screen? If you were thinking like a student, type in the chat, what are some things that you notice? So I notice the boxes. There's 3 colors of circles. There's some boxes. There's 10 spots on the stomach. Ooh, there's a lever. There's different groups. There's different sections. So you're right, there's different circles. There's 3 purple ones on the bottom, 4 yellow on the right, which is under this lever. I don't know what that does. Looks like there's 10 spots, which, you know what? This looks pretty similar to a 10 frame. Ah, this conveyor belt. Okay, so now that I notice what's on the screen, I need to make a prediction on what might happen when I click. And it looks like when I move my mouse, I can't move Gigi. The only thing I can select are these spots, as we called them, on this monster. Okay, at this point, I just need to take a guess. So help me out. What number do you think I can select here to help Gigi cross the screen? I see a 4. I was thinking 4 too, because I see these yellow circles over here on the right. I see a 3. Yeah, that was another option because I see 3 on the bottom here. Some are saying 10. Okay, I initially thought 4 too. So I'm going to select 4 and I'm going to watch what happens. Oh, no. Okay, well, I didn't get Gigi to cross, but you know what? I am kind of understanding now what Gigi is trying to teach me here. So you'll notice that when I clicked on 4, these circles on the bottom, which are pies, moved over to the right, and it looked like the monster ate them. But there wasn't enough. You'll notice that there were some that were blinking here on the right. So now that I've watched the animation, how might you change your answer? Because 4 didn't work. Type in the chat what you want me to select next. A lot of you are saying 7. All right, let's click on 7 and see what happens. Yay! Thank you for helping me out. You were right. So it looked as if I'm adding the pies. So now I understand I'm adding what's on the bottom to what's on the right on this conveyor belt to help Gigi cross. So now that I understand that, I'm going to imagine that these 4 are going to move up to the right. I know that 4 plus 1 is 5. So let me click on 5 here and see if I'm right. Okay, I'm getting the hang of this a little bit. So it looks like on this level 1, the unknown is here on the monster. So I'm going to go back to level 2. And I want you to notice what's different. So it looks like I can't select those anymore. So what's different on this screen? Looks like I need to select what's on the bottom. So all of a sudden, I need to think about what happened in the last level and apply it to this one. So I remember that these pies on the bottom moved to the right and the monster ate them. So let me see. I'm trying to get 2. So what if I selected 1 here? So instead of selecting on the monster, I need to select down here. All right, let's go to the next level and see how that changes. All right, so now we have a different part that is unknown here. So it's not the monster to select, it's not these pies on the bottom, instead it's here on the right. So again, if I think of what's already happened in the previous levels, I know that the pies on the conveyor belt need to be added to these on the bottom so the monster will eat them. Is there another way to solve this other than addition? Type in the chat. Yeah, maybe subtraction. So you'll notice that throughout these levels, the different parts are unknown. We had change unknown, we had total unknown. This particular puzzle is, in my opinion, very linked to CGI. So if I use subtraction, if I use this sum, because I'm thinking that's what is on the monster is the whole, the total, or the sum. I have 6, maybe I subtract 4 to get 2. Let's see if that works. Okay, thinking is right. And again, it might take your students a little bit more time to figure this out, but you'll notice that each level builds upon the next, and in the very last level, it's a combination of all the previous ones. So now they really have to be flexible thinkers to use addition or subtraction and help Gigi cross the screen. Okay, so enough about ST math and playing. I know I would love to play more. I get really into the puzzles and engage there. But how are you going to get started? Your students and you as the teacher are going to log in through Clever. There is a link and a parent letter that you can send home to guide your parents on how to access ST Math with their students, especially for the younger ones. I know a lot of you are in upper grades, so your students may have already been using Clever. If you are, I don't know if we have a special education teacher on here, or if you want to use Clever badges, that is another way for students to log in here on the right. That would require you as the teacher to send those badges home to your students on how to log in, or they can simply use their Clever credentials to log into ST Math. Once you log in as the teacher through Clever, this is the screen that you're going to see. We call this the GG console. And there's a couple links here that can provide you some resources. On the bottom right is a link to ST Math Central. ST Math Central is our teacher resource site. So if you have any questions after this presentation, you obviously can call our support team or even me. But there are a lot of tutorials and resources on ST Math Central available to you. We're not going to spend time going through all of those resources today, but we can certainly set up time on another day to do that. You'll notice on the left is something called Test Drive. If you're curious about how any levels progress in your grade level or any objectives even in a different grade level, you can utilize Test Drive to play around as a teacher to see how those puzzles work. This middle gray rectangle that you see is what we call a class card. So when you go into your account, you can click anywhere on this class card, and it's going to provide you with more information on how your class is progressing. So as I click into this class card, you'll notice some tabs at the top. The first one is a roster tab. So this shows all of your students in your class. Because you guys are using Clever, all of your students and classes are already in your account. There is nothing you need to do. Your students can log into Clever, click on ST Math, and they're going to be able to start playing right away. If you have a new student come on board in the next few weeks, or if you have a student leave your class or district, Clever will automatically update that through ST Math, so there's nothing that you need to do in adding or deleting students. You'll notice a reports tab on the top, which we'll briefly cover. You'll notice a curriculum tab, which we'll also review. And lastly, there's an alerts tab, which is going to be very beneficial over the next few weeks to help any stuck students. I know we're virtual right now, and you're probably planning Zoom meetings with perhaps your whole class and individual groups. That alerts tab will help you differentiate instruction for your students. So let's start with curriculum. Your grade level is, you basically have 20 to 30 objectives depending on your grade level available. They are automatically in a default order. So you do have the option of rearranging these objectives based on what you're teaching right now. I know it's mid-April, so a lot of these objectives are things that were taught perhaps back in August or September. So you can rearrange these objectives if you like. You'll notice that on the right here, you have a home and school column. You do not need to turn on any of these objectives for home. You'll notice next to subitizing, this is bolded. You can disregard any bolded icons here for home because the way Clever works. So Clever thinks that any student who logs in through Clever is at school. So as long as your objectives are turned on here under school, your students will have access to them. This is the assigned objectives. You'll notice on the left, you have an assigned objectives tab. And below it, you also have an optional objectives tab. These optional objectives are not automatically assigned to your class, but you certainly can assign those if you think your students are going to go through the main curriculum quicker. As I mentioned before, you can reorder these objectives by clicking on these 3 gray lines. This is not live here, but if I click on the 3 gray lines, I can move these objectives up and down. And you'll just make sure you want to hit the save button here at the top underneath your name in order to save those changes. When you click on each objective, it's going to give you additional information on what that objective is going to cover. So you'll notice this one, comparing numbers, is comparing and ordering two numerals between 1 and 10 using visual models, such as the number line. You'll also notice here on the left is the red color. These colors on the left of the objectives are associated with a domain. So this comparing numbers objective, you'll notice here, is part of the counting and cardinality domain. So you'll notice in this specific kindergarten group, there's yellow, red, orange. Each color is going to be linked to a domain. If you want to figure out what this objective is all about, there is a test drive link where you can click here and play the puzzles in this objective to see what your students are going to view. I will briefly talk about this reports page. Your data in here will not show much if your kids have not played yet. But under the reports tab on the left are your student names, and you'll also see school sessions and home sessions. The school sessions column is what you want to look for. These will show you how many times your students are logging into STMath. Because you guys are using Clever right now, you will not see any numbers in the home session column, even though they're playing at home. Like I said before, Clever thinks, because of the way it works, that students are at school when they're playing. So if you do see numbers other than 0 in the home sessions column, you may want to call us because there's probably an error. Moving to the right, you'll notice these little bubbles are next to 2 of the names in this class. We say the bigger the bubble, the bigger the trouble. These are alerts that are associated with these 2 students. So they are stuck on something. They could have a low quiz score in one of the objectives. It could be a variety of things. And the way you need to figure out what these are is to click on the alerts tab at the top of your screen. And it's going to give you more information about what these alerts are. So high number of tries is going to always be at the top of your list if you have a student with this alert. Students are going to get stuck in these puzzles. And it's not uncommon that they might try 10, 12, 20 times even to go through a puzzle because they're stuck on something and they're not understanding. In my example before of differentiating instruction, if you're perhaps doing a Zoom meeting with a small number of students, this could be a group to do a quick intervention with. It seems that they're all stuck on the subitizing objective on the right. So you could certainly bring these 3 students in a traditional classroom. It would be pretty simple to, bring them to your table, pull up a GG puzzle and help them through what is happening. But it can also be done virtually. A low time on task could be another one. Caleb had a bubble next to him because he's spending a lot of time on one specific puzzle, which is numbers and counting to 100. We do have support resources that you can send home to parents. There are facilitation questions that can help students get. I know parents and even other siblings are, because I know I'm one, I sometimes want to just tell my child what to do. We do not want parents and siblings to do that for their students because the puzzles are only going to get harder. And as you remember in Pie Monster, each level is going to build upon the previous one. So we want to make sure students are thoroughly understanding what's happening in the math on the screen before they have someone just tell them what to do. We do have recommended usage in STMath. In kindergarten and first grade, we recommend playing 60 minutes per week. In second grade and up, we recommend 90 minutes per week. This could be scheduled a variety of ways, but we do recommend that students are playing in at least 15 to 20 minute chunks of time. The reason for that is we want them to go through that learning cycle of noticing and predict and analyzing and connecting a number of times so that they're building that strong math conceptual knowledge. This is a very important slide. So tune in. Students do have a specific way of exiting STMath. This is a quick visual to show you how to do this. You'll notice the black hand is pointing to a little arrow. I know it's small. in the bottom left-hand of a student's screen. A student needs to arrow out as we going to click this arrow sometimes 5 times, as you'll notice as you move your eyes across the screen, until it's to a blue screen that says today's accomplishments. They're going to click on that little red X in order to exit properly. The reason we want them to do this is because the data is going to show in your reports will be available if students have exited correctly. So they could be playing every day for 2 weeks, but if they don't exit properly, it's not going to show that they've played at all in your account. What's also important is for your students to log out of Clever. So they need to exit out of ST Math, and they also need to exit out of Clever, especially if they have siblings that are also using ST Math. If a student does not exit Clever, it's possible that the sibling would log into the other student's account. These are some of the questions that parents can use, or even students can use, to help them out while at home, as well as teacher if you're doing virtually to help students with ST. So ask helpful questions. Let's not tell them what to do, but let's ask them, what did you notice about the puzzle that you just played? Do you notice anything familiar from the other levels? Similar to what we did in Pie Monster. So the different parts of the equation were changing. Can you predict what you need to do? What happens when you, or what might happen when you click here? I think what's most important as well is to, especially in a classroom where there's more distractions, or a lot of distractions at home now too, students are not watching what Gigi is doing. So they do need some reminders to analyze what's happening on the screen. We do encourage using math manipulatives using ST Math. So just because this is a game online doesn't mean that students should not be using physical manipulatives or even paper and pencil to solve problems. I know right now students at home may not have the math manipulatives that they're used to, but they might have Legos, they might have beans or pieces of paper that they can simply cut up to help them count. On the left, you'll notice some game mats and journals. These are just a few examples of what we have on STMS Central to help your students track what they're learning. On STMS Central, this is a quick answer page that's available. We've created this during this distance learning time because you will get some questions about Flash, for instance. I can't get Flash to work on my computer. What do I do? Or why aren't there words and language? I don't have instructions on how to solve this puzzle. Who is Gigi? How do I change the curriculum in my account? So this is available on STMS Central for you, but please feel free to call our support team. I'm gonna put some contact information up shortly because sometimes you need to talk live to someone, at least for me, it helps me out that way. And parents are also welcome to call us directly. We also have a parent resource website that parents can access. Oh, it's taking me live here, which is fine. So I'll scroll through here quickly. There are resources here at the bottom simply about math, not just about ST Math. We also have webinars available for families right now to help them with ST Math. And if Shakitha is available, perhaps you can put that link in the chat to our webinar page. And then here's our support contact information. So please feel free to email us or call us. That's the best way to get an immediate response. We have our support lines open from 5 a.m. until 7 p.m. during this time, Pacific time. And again, please have parents call us as well. Sometimes you as the teacher are the middleman and it's hard to answer all the questions back and forth. So by all means, they can call us directly and we are always available for you. And with that, that is the end of the content. And I'd love to open this up for any questions that came up that perhaps Shakitha was not able to answer. Please feel free to unmute yourself.
Hey, Karen, it's Shakitha.
Hi, Shakitha.
Can you show how to differentiate instruction for students with like IEPs or SPED students? So
Yes.
how to create another group and then transfer them?
Sure.
Thanks.
So here is an example of my account. I happen to have a lot of grade levels here. You may only have one or two, depending on if you have a combination class. Let's say you are a special education teacher and your students are rostered in a 4th grade class, but you want them to play 2nd grade content. What you would do is at the bottom of your screen here, there's a button that says create class. And when you create class, you're going to be asked to create the grade level. So in this case, I want 2nd grade. I'm going to click on the current school year. Don't be so concerned with the group number. I always just select the top group number that's listed. The reason why mine says group 2 is because I already have a 2nd grade class that is in group 1. So I'll select group 2. 2nd graders and up do take quizzes before and after every objective, and you can select whether or not you want these in English and Spanish. And I will create the class. So I do not need any training right now, so I'm going to go to dashboard. And you'll notice I have a new class card that says 2nd grade. I don't have any students in this class though. So what I need to do is go to, in this case, I said 4th grade. You're going to click on your 4th grade class, find the student that you want to transfer. So I'm going to transfer Ironman here because I know that in his IEP, he's at a 2nd grade level. And when I click on his name, I'm going to click on transfer. And I'm going to find that 2nd grade class that I created. So I'm going to select me as the teacher. This is going to be much easier for you because you're not going to have so many teacher options. And I'm going to click on that 2nd grade that I just created and hit transfer. Yes, I want him to start over in 2nd grade. So now if I go into my class that I created, Ironman in 2nd grade. What's really important to note is that the only way you can do this is if your students stay with you as the teacher. So because of how Clever rosters, you are not able to say, you know what, I want Ironman in Mrs. Smith's class instead of mine. So that student has to remain under you as the teacher, but you can select different grade levels for that student.
Can you rename the grade level? Because for 6th graders going into a 2nd grade named group, that's kind of problematic.
You cannot rename it, but when you go into a puzzle, let me see if I can show this. This happens to be professional development. That's probably not the best. They're not going to see 2nd grade right here, but they will see a number 2. They may not even know what that is. Honest with you, but they're not necessarily going to see the grade listed, just the number in the bottom right.
Okay.
Will that work for RSP as well? Because RSP, the caseload, they're coming out of different general ed classrooms. So,
Are you asking about like if you're an RSP teacher, are you going to have students assigned to you?
yes.
So that depends on how it's listed in your attendance system. So if you're an RSP teacher and the students are rostered under you, then they're going to be in your ST math class. If they're rostered under the general education teacher, then they're going to be in that general education teacher's class. There is something you could do though to view that student information. And you can call our support team to help with this, but your admin can grant you what we call school view access so that you can see all the classes in your school and find the students that you work with.
So I can pull them out into a class on my own, or?
If they're rostered under the general education teacher's name, you cannot transfer them into your class.
Yeah.
If you tried it overnight, it would revert back because Clever syncs their data with us every night. So it would have to be something done on the district end.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to go through the chat as well. I know Shakitha is answering some of these. We do have English and Spanish speakers on our support line. For those of us who teach 6, is there a way to access both the K through 6 and the middle school platforms? Thinking about high achievers and access to pre-algebra. So you do have access to, so you have 6th grade middle school content. So depending on what site you're at, I believe every site actually is licensed for TK through 6th. So if you are a 6th grade teacher and you want someone at 5th grade, then you should be able to transfer that person into that grade level. Nancy, did that answer your question?
I was thinking more about when you were mentioning how if you're a middle school student, there would be like a pre-assessment test and it might be able to offer them more challenging content, but it sounded like it was only for middle schools. And being 6th grade, we always have that crossover of, are we elementary today or are we middle school today? So it sounded like there were 2 separate components, and I was just curious if those of us who teach on the border here and jump back and forth, if there is a way for us to enjoy pushing those students and trying the middle school, even though we are at a K6 or TK6 site.
Yeah, so let me show you this. So this is where, if you are a 6th grade teacher, you do have access to our middle school curriculum. So this is an example of how the students are going to view their screen. They're going to have what's called a class path on the left and a personalized path on the right. And I can look to see if this is how your specific class is set up after this, if you'd like. But what the middle school students are going to do in this case is take a pre-assessment, which is about 35 to 40 questions in the personalized path. And after they take that assessment, they're going to be given an intervention curriculum. And those standards and those objectives go all the way down to 2nd grade. So as opposed to putting that actual student into, let's say, a 3rd grade class or a 4th grade class, if they take this personalized path assessment, they're already going to see those standards down to that level. But they'll also have access to the 6th grade content if they click on the class path. Does that help a little bit?
I think so. Thanks.
You're welcome. Now let's see, from Gilbert, do you have video tutorials from the student's perspective on how to log in and exit? We certainly do. The exiting video, I think, is super important to send home actually to them, or if you do have regular Zoom meetings, even show it on one of your Zoom videos. We can find the link. It's on STMS Central on how to exit, as well as logging in. And I could actually show you. If there's not another question, let me just show you how to do that. So if I go to STMS Central, this is in a variety of areas, but I'm just going to search exit video. And this first link here comes up to how to exit STMath. And this video is about 43 seconds long, well, exactly 43 seconds long, which shows the students how to exit. I'm going to keep my screen on this support page so that you can screenshot it or jot down our information. I'm going to scroll back in the chat to see if there's something I missed, or Shakitha, if there's something you have not been able to answer, let me know.
I think we covered them all.
Yeah, I'm going back and forth, the puzzle, time to complete the puzzles. So if you do have any other questions as you're kind of playing around, please feel free to unmute. This is the end of my content, so unless Ryan says otherwise, you're free to sign off. And yes, for Rorimer, if you are online, we do have a trial webinar scheduled tomorrow at 2:30. I happen to be hosting it, so I know you may not get information before that, but you can certainly tune into our webinar, and I will type in, I think Shakita put this on already, but I'll type it in again, on where you can access our webinars.
So does that mean that our current account, we're going to have a different account now?
Not necessarily. So Enrique, are you from Rorimer?
Yes, I'm the one that does GG over there currently.
Okay, so there are 3 schools that already use ST Math. So which obviously you're one of them. So for those teachers and students who have already been using ST Math this year, they're going to continue logging in and using ST Math the same exact way that they have been. For those teachers who have not started a class for grade levels that perhaps were not licensed at your site, they are going to have to use a trial account. So your site is going to have 2 groups of students.
So we're keeping our same account? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes. Yeah. For any teachers and students who have already been using ST Math this year, they will continue signing in with the visual password as they always have been.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any other 6th grade teachers who are already using the program still online that can like share a little bit of their experience? Or did they leave?
That I don't know.
Okay.
Any 6th grade teachers?
who already, or 5th grade? They just,
They might not, only because a lot of teachers on this webinar are new to ST Math.
okay. No, but I was just thinking if there was like the other schools were using it, so I wasn't sure.
Oh,
But
I gotcha.
kind of like how Nancy was saying, like, how do we, or, and the other teacher, how do we make the groups without them looking at a 2 or thinking that they're in 2nd grade or,
So if you are using the 6th grade middle school content, if they're using that personalized path that I showed you,
Right.
they're not going to be seeing the different grade levels. It's only if you're putting them into an actual 2nd grade only class, they're going to see that number 2 on the bottom of their screen.
Okay. Because I was thinking, like, I do have a range of kids, and I was thinking, oh, well, if I don't think I have any in 2nd, but I have like 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and 6th. So I could just say that those are like group numbers, and that'll be fine. I don't think they'll really care.
You could create different groups. I would recommend having them start. Let me go back to that page here. So let me pull up the curriculum.
Sorry. Is there like an assessment that starts them off that would put them in their own?
It doesn't necessarily put them in a grade level, but it puts them in an intervention path.
Oh, okay.
Has standards down to 2nd grade. So that's what I was going to show you here. Let's try it this way. So this is a 6th grade middle school class, and you'll notice on the left here is the class path objectives. So all of these objectives that are listed are 6th grade content. If you click on the personalized path objectives, these are all of the intervention objectives that could be applied depending on that assessment that the students take.
Okay.
So you'll notice there's a fraction section, number system concepts. There's 4 different groups, decimals, and then geometry. So depending on how they score on that assessment, they might get all or just some of these objectives to take. Does that answer your question a little bit?
That's a lot to process, but I could play with it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, middle school can be a little more complicated than a straight grade level, but what I love about it is that it does have the intervention content as well as the grade level content, depending on how your students are progressing in math.
Karen, I'm getting a few questions about what it looks like to log in from the student side. Could I take share from you really quick, and then you can
Sure.
take it right back?
Yep.
All right, let me share what it looks like on the student side. Okay, so can everybody see my screen okay? I hear nothing, so I take that as a yes. Okay, so I'm on. We're good. So this is clever.com/Roland Schools. And I think Sammy was in here earlier. I don't know if she's still here, but I'm going to log in as one of her students. So up on the right, log in as a student. And that's going to direct me to log in with Google. And this is going to give me the option because I'm on here with my school account. And then this is Lauren. Click on that one. Now, if they're the only account on that system, I think they just go straight in.
Yeah.
But this is the teacher page on Clever, and Lauren has not favorited it yet, but she could. And then you see ST Math on the bottom here. Click on it just like you would if it was like an iPad or an app of any sort. And this is probably going to pop up on our Chromebooks, the Adobe Flash Player warning. You just have to click to enable, and then allow. And then basically that's it. And then it logs them in automatically, and then they're in. And then she's already actually been using it because we've been using her as our guinea pig account. And then so she's already ready to play, and she just clicks and is off and running.
Okay. Thank you. So if I were to add, I was playing with it, and if I were to add something like a new objective, it would pop up for everybody in the class, and they would just see it there and start them at the same place.
Correct. When you say add objective, you mean if you didn't have all the objectives turned on?
I think that's what I'm confused with, because am I assigning the objectives? Like if I, can I share my screen with you? Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. Here, let me stop this.
Okay. Okay. So this is what can you see it?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So this is what it looks like from my perspective. So
Correct.
I guess I've been trying to have them play with the volume, but I think this is where I'm confused. Is everything already assigned, or do I have to drag it because it says drag to reorder? Does that mean how I want them to do it? What does that mean?
Very good question. So in order to assign an objective, we'll start there. You have to make sure that under the school column on the right, those computers are bolded, and those are automatically assigned for your entire class.
These right here.
Yeah, on the right, on the let's see, can I annotate here? I don't know if there you go. So disregard the home column because you Clever, that doesn't apply. Under the school column, all of those objectives are already bolded. So you see the 4 little computers?
Yes.
Those are already on. So if you scroll down through your entire curriculum, all of those are already turned on.
Okay.
If you wanted to turn one off, you'd simply click on those 4 little icons and they will be grayed out.
Okay.
So now when a student logs in, they see volume. So everyone's going to see volume. If you were to turn that objective off, then when they log in next, they're going to see the coordinate plane.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah. The second part to your question is to drag to reorder. If you wanted your students to play in a specific order, you move around those objectives based on how you're teaching in the classroom. And we also have textbook correlations that can guide you on how to do that. So what textbook do you guys use?
Well, I'm using CGI, so it's kind of not really curriculum based, but in our school we're using expressions.
Okay, so for instance, we have an expressions guide, and if you'd like me to show you, I certainly can, although not sure if it would be applicable to you if you're not. But on our website, I'll go ahead and show you real quick. For those of you who might be using expressions, or if you're using CGI, you might be pulling from Eureka or Engage New York. I know they have really good CGI type problems. So I'm ST Math Central, and I'm going to search textbook correlation. and search. Maybe. Nope. Let me try again. Textbook correlation. So this top link here that says textbook correlations with ST Math, I'm going to click. And these are all of the textbooks that we do have ST Math applied to, basically. So I'm going to find Math Expressions, which is K through 5. I don't believe Expressions is a middle school. Am I correct on that? Curriculum? Or if it is, we don't have it. But this one, Math Expressions, says grades K through 5. So if I click on it, I'm going to find my grade level. So you said, I think you were 5th grade. On the left here are all of the expressions units. And then the second column shows you the ST Math objectives that correlate to that unit. So if let's say you were teaching expressions unit 1 through 7 in order, which you probably aren't, you would go and find this ST Math objective and put fraction and decimal concepts to begin with as objective 1, and then followed by fractions on the number line. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you so much.
Relate with how you're teaching, yeah. So we do have this available. That was a great question. Any other questions? I know it's 2:30. I do have a few more minutes if you still have other questions. But if not, good luck. Please feel free to reach out to us when you need to. And again, I know I've said it, but please have your parents call us too or email us so we
It
can
does
help.
have a question. It says, do teachers have to assign work, or will the ST Math just deliver curriculum automatically? Was that?
It just assigns it automatically. So just like I showed you, all of those objectives are automatically going to be assigned. You don't need to do anything.
But if I wanted to move them in and out of order like you just showed us, that's fine too?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry, I think my chat, I can't seem to get my chat open again.
No, and it happens to me all the time. Thank you.
There we go. Oh, it's not opening though. It doesn't want me to read anymore apparently.
Or if you're sharing a host, then it might not.
Maybe that's what I saw it all the whole time though, and then now it's gone. Even the shortcut's not working. So if you do have a question, please feel free to unmute yourself.
Well, everyone, those of you who are still here, thank you so much for coming today, setting the time aside. If you need sort of technical support, let Brandy or I know. We'll be happy to help you on the, if Clever is a challenge for you, let us know. We can help you through that. So have a good day, everybody.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you so much.